Each of the disciplines of multi-sport are wonderful individual sports in themselves, of course. Swimming, cycling, and running, all great sports. But when you combine them together, it creates multi-sport. And there are some great ventures of overall global development that make it a really wonderful sport. Swimming is a great venue to develop cardiovascular fitness, it's low impact, and it is overall body. Cycling is a great venue to develop cardiovascular fitness, muscular resilience, and of course, explore the great outdoors, which I think is emotionally a very healthy thing to do. Running, weight bearing, a good important component to us to do. While it's corrosive and needs to be carefully prescribed, it's important for all human beings to develop some form of weight bearing experience, especially for bone integrity and health. And of course, it's really easy to execute. The challenge of those three woven together create a great overall athletic development and also a multidimensional mindset, which is a good thing for the way that we think as human beings. But the key is, how do we define or look at the sport? Too many triathletes focus on it being swimming, cycling, and running. The main purpose of this video is to set the lens on how we look at it, which is swim, bike, run. It is one sport comprised of three disciplines. The reason for that is it's really important to understand that there's a great cross-pollination that can occur from swimming into cycling and running, and from cycling into running as well. And so we must appreciate this when we think about race preparation and how we structure our training. So I want to tell you a story about one of my athletes that came to us a couple of years ago, Jack. Jack came to us frustrated. He was a hard trainer, he was dedicated, he loved to race, but he was doing so, as many of you guys do, in a time-starved life. Because of the logistics of his life, he relegated swimming to an afterthought, maybe getting in one swim a week. Most of his riding was on a stationary bike, and he did that as a very metrics-driven athlete. I'm going to hit one cadence at one heart rate, develop the resilience, and be ready to perform. But his joy, love, and strength was running. Everywhere he could go, it was easy to take a pair of running shoes, and so the predominant focus of his training regime was that run. And of course, he'd go into his races really confident about the run. If I can get through the swim, carry my fitness from the hard work I'm doing on the bike, where he felt like he was prepared, and then get onto the run, I'm going to have a great day, because that's where I can show my strength and I can have an overall good performance. Unfortunately, the results didn't quite tell that story. He went through the swim, choppy, with of course hundreds of his friends bashing him over the head, and it became this emotional and physiological stressful event. He didn't have the muscular resilience or familiarity with the environment to have a swim that he could get through. Instead, it was costly. When he got onto the bike, there was terrain and there was wind. And his training, riding at one cadence and one heart rate, meant that he didn't have the tools or experience of how to navigate that terrain. And that came at another great physiological cost. By the time he came to the run, he was spent, and his strength was a disaster. When he came to the back end of the race, he came to me and said, "I can't believe it. I'm so frustrated. I worked so hard on the run. I got through the swim and bike. And yeah, I was tired, but my strength was rubbish." And his natural instinct, as many triathletes' instinct is I need to work on the run. Instead, what we had to do with Jack is to have him take a step back and look at the landscape of his training program. When he understood that the swim training had a cross-pollination of a negative effect on how he was ready to perform on the bike that then led into the run, the challenge wasn't his run training, it was his ill preparation when it came to the swim and the bike. When we shifted the lens, developed the tools in the bike riding to have variability in cadence and intervals, intensity, he was more prepared. We got him to force in swimming into his life, and then his performance could improve. In fact, ultimately running less but more effectively turned him into a better triathlete. Jack's story is a great simple case study of how it influences the overall framework of the lens we look through with your training. We don't think about plugging in your swim training, your bike training, and your run training. Instead, we create the fabric or the mosaic of a whole training week. The swimming training is not about becoming the best pool swimmer. Instead, we think about the techniques, skills, and resilience necessary to be a great open water swimmer. The biking is designed to ensure that you have the tools necessary and, of course, the race specific muscular endurance and physiological capability to ride well, but also run off. It's not just about bike riding, it's about riding as well as you can and equipping you to run off. And finally, the run is setting up the tools and the fitness to actually manage and navigate not just the distance that you're running, but the distance that you're running off the bike. So you are a triathlete, you are a multi-sport athlete, and that is the lens that informs both training preparation as well as race execution. I hope that helps. Take care.